Welcome to Offsite Dirt, the podcast committed to news and insight in the offsite construction industry. Join our team of experts covering modern methods of construction, high-performance build, lean manufacturing, prefab, and beyond. Here's the dirt on Offsite Dirt. Hello, I'm Audree Grubesic, the founder of Offsite Dirt. We have Mercer Mass Timber with us today. This amazing company has 3 factories, one in the BC, one in Arkansas, and one in Washington. It is a phenomenal product when you can have a low carbon, fire resistant, acoustic type of achievement in your building application. And that's what Mass Timber and Mercer do for our communities. So first and foremost, we have Ricardo and we also have Nick. Both of them are going to give us a little bit of their background and tell us a little bit more. I feel like I'm going to be educated more than anything else in this interview, and I guess I'm just beaming with excitement to learn it. So Ricardo, how are you today?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for having us here. I'm Ricardo Brites. I'm the Director of Engineering and VDC for Mercer Mass Timber. My background, I am a structural engineer by training. I have a Ph.D. in timber as well. So I've been working in timber for the last 15 years, first in Europe, the last 5 years in North America.
Wonderful. Thank you for your brief background. And Nick Milestone, can you please give us a little bit of your background and your position with the company?
Sure. So I'm Vice President of Projects and Construction. I'm responsible from all sales, marketing activities, right through to overseeing construction. And I work alongside my peers who manage the individual 3 facilities, and we both report to our senior VP. My background, I've been in construction and construction manufacturing for nearly 4 decades. My career more or less took off in the structural steel world, which was the original offsite. Nobody gives that the kudos it deserves. It was all then about DFMA, design for manufacturing assembly, and the steel world was very much in that place. And then I've been in mass timber now since around 2006, so just shy of 18 years. Coming from the UK, being blessed to have worked in the Middle East, the Far East, and North America, where mass timber has been pioneering technology. So I'm very much from this sort of steel mass timber background, if you like, and had a great career. And I was blessed to have first met Ricardo in the UK. We worked for opposing companies competing for the same business. And often I would walk out of a tender interview or walk into a tender interview and Ricardo would be going in the opposite direction. Yes. And so I have absolute respect for Ricardo as a very competent, capable doctor of timber engineering. And so it was without question that when I was approached by Mercer over 2.5 years ago to come back to North America and take on the challenges of fulfilling the facility in Spokane initially, it was out question. I said, we need this chap called Dr. Ricardo Brites on part of the team, and here we both are. And now between us, we've got a staffing of about 47 people of various disciplines, from project management to structural engineering, detailing, and construction as well. So it's quite a mixed and well balanced team of professionals. And now we have the 3 facilities through acquisition, and we've kind of ended up as being the big fish in the little pond, but the little pond is growing exponentially. And we're just here to make sure that we build sustainably in North America and change the landscape.
Thank God. And I'm so happy that you're here. And, for our guests, for those that may not have heard of Mercer Mass Timber, when we talk about mass timber, we're always talking about sustainability. We're talking about how we can achieve net zero. And when we look at mass timber roots, how do we talk about, mass timber construction in Europe and how regulations and codes differ from the United States? How is the language changing and how are we seeing it in the United States now? Ricardo, we're going to have you take that.
No, absolutely. So the codes in United States, because of the International Building Code, are more unified across the land. although there are different versions of the International Building Code being used in different parts of in different states, it's pretty much the same baseline, right? In Europe, there is a similar approach, but different, right? So there is, again, a unified building codes called Euro codes, which deals more with the structural design, and there are building regulations. And the building regulations, which are more aligned with the IBC, are country specific. For example, I work in the UK with Nick, and it's a different landscape from my home country, which is Portugal or Spain or Italy or France. So in that regards, America and North America, it's much more aligned, it's much more ripe and ready to deal with mass timber and new methodologies, because these changes in the code apply normally to across the whole country, some in different stages, but eventually will flow through to all the states.
So when we talk about mass timber, you guys create floor panels, wall panels, roof panels.
Yes.
And I think the most wonderful thing is on your website, the data sheets with all the different information about your acoustic performance, your adhesive, your moisture content. But for those that have never heard about mass timber, Nick, can you kind of tell us about the product? Why is it so important, and what makes it high performance and a low carbon product?
Okay, so mass timber is nothing new. Mass timber has been around since, well, the turn of, the 20th century with glulam, which more or less took off in the 1950s in Europe with the advance of gluing technology. And but glulam's always been the boutique, if you like, the boutique product. Structural steel more or less has sort of dominated that beam and column market. But it was what really sort of changed the dynamics was in the early 2000s with the advance of CLT, cross-laminated timber, which effectively is a structural panel that can be used as a floor or a wall component. And that really kind of disrupted the industry because it was just, well, hang on a second, 70% in any building, the majority of the volume of the materials is in the floors. And then all of a sudden you're creating CLT, which is a structural floor, effectively, which can sit on a concrete frame, a steel frame. And that's what's changed the dynamic massively. So CLT has kind of dragged glulam in its vacuum behind it. And so the advances in glulam has pushed on because of CLT. And then when we look here from Europe to North America, and we kind of identify North America truly as year dot has been about 2016. So if you imagine there's a 12 to 14 year time lag between Europe and North America. Now, glulam was already here, it was already present, but it was more used as, like you say, builders' beams, some structural components, not many. But then CLT has really changed the landscape here in North America. And then when we say change the landscape, mass timber now forms part of the ecosystem of offsite technologies. So more in that line of prefabrication, whereby the components are designed, engineered, manufactured to specific tolerances of 1/16 of an inch, which means when it goes to site, there's zero waste. It goes to site as a structural component that forms part of a structural building system. And that goes for the same for glulam, it goes for the same for CLT. So we're all sort of converging in this offsite world where the advances of BIM technology, of building information modeling, has really sort of grasped, well, we can have one model where we've got steel components, we've got mass timber components in the same model together. So that, if you like, is why we have VDC. And this is why in Ricardo's title specifically, it's Director of Engineering and VDC, Virtual Design and Construction. So if it fits in the model, it fits on site. So that dramatically reduces waste on site. It reduces the amount of labor required on the job site as well, which is going to significantly reduce the probability of health and safety incidents. So it's got speed, it's got so much advantages. And of course, you've got the byproducts, you've got the biophilia aspect, you've got the net zero carbon impact, because wood is made of, water, sunlight, and carbon. So we're capturing the carbon and sequestering it into these components. So this is why it ticks many, many boxes along the way. And but there's a huge argument that we face on most projects is cost versus carbon. There's still a huge piece of work to do over the next 20 years of education, upskilling that knowledge. You know, people only know, well, concrete and steel, and they're very mature industries. We're still very much pioneering in that space. And this is why we've got 12 years catch up to play on Europe. But the beauty of North America is it advances at a great speed. And so it's a mixture of, you know, engineering, design technologies, you know, combined with the product. And we're starting to see the huge move towards hybrid construction. We're starting to see now, you know, steel frames with CLT floors. We're starting to see huge advances in the CFS world of light gauge, load bearing steel walls with CLT floors. It's starting to play out into its own ecosystem quite beautifully, and it's advanced glulam massively. And I think having our 3 facilities all capable of manufacturing different species, different components at each factory, and it's been about strategically located. So right now, our ecosystem as a business is we have our 3 facilities, but the fact is that we can see, well, you know, the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to need more facilities. That's for sure, to service demand. It's moving at an exponential rate, which is just exciting times.
It is, and I like that you touched on all of those. And I do think it's really important to say that we are changing as we are building. We are starting to see in the offsite solution space that maybe modular volumetric isn't the solution, and maybe a panelized system is a better solution. I love that there is risk mitigation in the project and then also in the design. And Ricardo, coming from the engineering side, what types of advances have you seen in Mercer in the last couple of years when you're talking about engineering and you're talking about the design platform, using BIM and utilizing those technologies?
Absolutely. So it's a big change for the industry, right? So everything we do here, it's pre-engineered and pre-designed offsite, right? So before the building gets put on site, we model the building fully, and we understand exactly each component, how it works per se, and how it works in combination with all the elements on its vicinity. So we truly build twice, once virtually and the second time on site. And that's the beauty of what we do. So it's a paradigm shift on engineering and design, right? So there is much more upfront load in terms of resources for engineering design, but then this translates in a very smooth installation process, right? So everything gets pre-manufactured to very tight tolerances, as Nick mentioned before, and everything goes to site like an IKEA flatpack, right? So you have all the components that you bring to the table, that you bring to site. They fit very neatly, very nicely, because we test fit it before it goes to site, and it all fits very naturally on site. So it's very rare that there is adjustments needed on site. If the base it's as it should be, concrete normally, a concrete podium or a concrete slab, from that point onwards, we are very reliable in terms of installation, right? So everything is designed so much upfront that when we go to site, yes, there are surprises. There is no projects with no hiccups, but it's very, very minimal in comparison to a typical frame, steel frame, concrete frame, where there is a lot of site adjustments. There is no site adjustments in the jobs we do. The jobs come fully pre-manufactured, fully designed, and the BIM technologies, the VDC technologies we imply, it's exactly to ensure that, right? So we go from a level of development about 250 to a level of development of 400, which that means is that we start with a very rough mass, being the structure, to the detail of every component, every screw, every nut, every bolt. We know exactly where and when they go, right? So it's very precise, the design. So all of these components are fully engineered, designed, and supplied. So the installation goes very smoothly on site.
Yeah, I agree with you about pre-construction. We that's our claim to fame, right? In offsite, it's about building the pre-construction team and having those conversations before, because it really does have to do with all the planning. For those that may not know Mercer, they do very large projects. They've done projects for commercial and multifamily. They did the Highline Timber Bridge in New York, New York. They've done the Catalyst which is a commercial and education design for Spokane, Washington. And then recently, I'd love to know a little bit more about the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library in North Dakota. How is that project moving forward?
You want to take it, Nick, or shall I?
Nick, you're on mute.
Yeah, so I just
Please
couldn't
jump
press
in.
the
It's an
button
exciting
quick enough.
project.
Well, I turned 55 today, so therefore technology is
happy birthday. Good
yeah,
for us. We get to see you on your
yeah,
birthday. It's
so
fabulous.
the relation to that is technology and getting to my age and pressing the mute button. So TRPL, yeah. So there's about 1,800 cube of glulam and CLT components,
Wow.
and it's effectively it's a glulam curved roof with CLT panels acting as the diaphragm action, but it's actually on a steel frame, which for me is close to my heart because it's a true hybrid. We're working very close with the contractor J Dunn and the installer, who happens to be Seagate Mass Timber, who are a great company to partner up with. And so working with Seagate, so basically we get involved with those guys first because they will determine sort of the installation sequence.
Beautiful.
And then how they dictate the installation sequence is how we then go back through manufacturing, detail and engineering. So effectively, they tell us which corner to start, and we work in that logistical sequence. Therefore, that the beauty of offsite is it's a collaborative thing.
Yes.
What everybody don't realize, you are only judged on when it arrives at site. Nobody appreciates the 20 plus weeks that is spent, 6 weeks in manufacture, a good 10 to 14 weeks in doing the engineering and the coordination. And yes, we are literally just starting in the month of June. July, we start the deliveries over a 3-month period. And that just forms part of the structural frame. The building itself will not be open to the general public on July the 4th, 2026, in line with Independence Day.
Wow.
And it's a good mixture of species. It's predominantly Doug fir, and it's a beautiful material to work with, is Doug fir, which is very much kind of local to BC, is that species, or Pacific Northwest. And unless you want to add to anything, Ricardo.
No, I think you hit the nail in the head there. I think the only thing it's a very complex shape job. If you've seen the renders and the pictures, it's a curved roof, as Nick mentioned, and the VDC really shines on those environments, right? So you have this free form. Every connection is unique, and we have hundreds of unique connections there. So this will be impossible to do with traditional design methods. So this needs to be fully digital, fully fully designed, fully coordinated with the installation team, with Seagate, to make sure that this thing goes very smoothly on site. We've also did a mock-up for the same job, exactly to make sure that everything aligns perfectly when we go to site. So it's a very interesting job with a lot of sustainability goals, net zero goals, very interesting metrics also on there. So it will be a brilliant job when it's completed, and we're very proud of it as well.
Yeah, and I'm proud of you too, because like you said, it's I love that you keep challenging yourself, right?
Yes.
To being able to do these beautiful buildings, and then allowing the public to be able to visit them and to enjoy them, and to know that they are sustainable, and to know that they are healthy in order for us to go in them and to live in them, or even to enjoy them. So I'm very excited about that project. I know that's just one on the many list. And for those that are interested in these large types of projects, you really do have to go check out. I mean, they've done stuff that it is incredible when you see the work that they have done. I have a question for you though. I was on your website, and I don't know if either one of you could answer this, but you have the Forest Stewardship certification. What does that really mean? I was so interested in it because you have the PEFC, the FSC, and the SFI. So there's 3 certifications you guys have acquired, and I'd love to know a little bit more about that. I don't know who wants to answer that. Nick, can you answer that?
Sure. So it's all dependent on client requirements.
Okay.
And it's good that we don't just have the 3 certifications. It's the fact that clients and stakeholders are pushing for those certifications, because FSC is Forest Stewardship Council, PEFC is the program endorsement for forest certification, and SFI is more typical to North America. So the whole idea of having these certifications is it demonstrates that the wood that's being sourced is legal and sustainable, i.e. the forests that we are procuring the materials from are effectively replanted and regrown. So to put that into a physical context, so a tree from a young sapling up to maturity, that could be anywhere between 40, 60, 80 years. It depends on how further north you go. It gets to a point where when a tree matures, it doesn't absorb any more CO2 out the atmosphere. So then it gets felled for paper pulp, construction purposes. And then so we're taking that locked in carbon and then using it into building construction. So it's part of the sort of circular economy, if you like, of repurposing that material. But then legal and sustainable sourcing means, well, that a new sapling is replanted. And a sapling in its infancy will take 2.5 times more CO2 out of the atmosphere than a mature tree. So we're actually doing good by the planet. When I first came into the mass timber industry in around 2006, you have all these perceptions of, well, it's wood, it burns. You're damaging the forest, the ecosystem. Well, no, we're actually doing good by the planet, because you're effectively just pruning the planet and you're replanting it to take more CO2 out the atmosphere, as part of a progressive change to regress climate change, in a positive direction. And this is why it's important that we work under those badges. And that's often dictated to by by the stakeholders. But if we look at Europe is predominantly PEFC, a little bit of FSC. But it's the same here in North America, where you've got PEFC in Canada, but you've got SFI in the United States. And SFI is very much aligned with the governance of PEFC. So it's all the same sort of principles and roadmap to a sustainable future. And so that's why those badges are not just to say we've got these badges. It's the fact that how we operate our business is in line with those practices as well. We will never knowingly, acquire lumber that's come from, illegal sources of materials. Yeah. And you have to stand robust and strong about that principles, because it'd be very easy to compromise yourself for the sake of cost. And we're not doing that. It's not part of what our business principles are.
That is beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. I even caught you off guard with that, and you just eloquently told us so much. And again, I continue to learn and be a student of this, and it makes me excited, because we want our world and our earth to be around as many decades more than we can live and have and share it with our children, our children's children. So, Mercer Mass Timber, they're really doing things the right way and actually really caring about the earth. In closing, Ricardo, coming from the engineering side of things, what makes you excited in the next couple of years with Mercer? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, this is super exciting here. I think we are on the cutting edge of the technology and the industry, right? So the industry, it's moving towards alternative construction methodologies and materials, and mass timber has a pivotal role there. So it's very excited to be in charge of this amazing group here at Mercer Mass Timber, and we are having truly team experts and field experts in our team on all the design, manufacturing, and assembly. So my team is more on the design, but in manufacturing and assembly, exactly the same thing, right? So it's very excited to be in the forefront of the team here. It's very exciting what we see in front of us, right? With all the offsite needs, all the housing needs, all the speed of construction needs we see. Mass timber, it's definitely one of the big tools that everyone needs to look for and use in conjunction with other materials. It does need to be pure mass timber. That's one of the misconceptions we see very often. But mass timber is a big ally to go with, for example, cold form steel bearing walls, steel frames. So it's very robust. It's very suitable for speed of assembly construction technologies that we see moving forward. So very excited to be on this position with this team.
Oh, congratulations. And I'm really excited that you and Nick are now on the same team because that just makes
Yes.
our world a better place to live. Nick, what are you excited about in the next couple of years with Mercer?
Oh, I think we know the market growth is coming. We've done our homework, and this is why I'm blessed to work with someone like Ricardo. My skill set, I'm a project manager, I'm a quant surveyor, I'm a cost economics, I'm a construction guy. And so having to work with Ricardo, we kind of complement each other's skill sets. We both have the same passions and drive. We know the market's coming. But what we do is we listen to the market. And if we look at the offsite world now, I mean, yes, we're in a very simple, basic place of the world in North America is just opening up to mass timber. It's where mass timber will go. And especially part of that offsite journey, it's a very light material to handle. We can do so much more yet. You mentioned about the volumetric side of life. Let's not discount that. We've just started to pick up our first modular volumetric projects where we're not only manufacturing product, we're actually doing the sub-assembly of the carcasses for our clients. We'll go from factory to site to factory to factory eventually. We're starting to mix with other more hybrid technologies. So I think this is where having not just the capacity and capability to manufacture products, but being able to give versatility to our clients in the engineering and design and detailing space and in the construction space as well. So I think, people call it being vertically integrated. Well, no, we're just listening to what the market wants and we're giving back. We want to de-risk it for the market. We want confidence in the marketplace. And we're just excited. We know it's going to evolve in different paths because it's an exciting product. And, everybody says, well, it's mass timber versus steel and concrete. Well, actually, no, it's mass timber working with steel and concrete. It's about using the right material in the right place. And if we can enhance BIM and VDC, and we're on an amazing path where we're actually still trying to make certain tweaks to the ecosystem where we can work in eventually a federated environment. Now, a federated environment is where all the subtrades and manufacturers from the concrete, the steel, and us guys, we work together in one model concurrently. Now that reduces conflict, clash, it reduces the procurement time to the job sites. So this is where it's more than just about mass timber. Yes, at the end of the day, we as Mercer, our ambition is to feed our factories 100% and build more factories. But we can only do that if we form part of that offsite leadership alliance with the rest of the North American construction industry. That's what's probably most exciting, definitely.
I love that. Well, Nick, happy birthday. We're so glad you're sharing your day with us. We're so happy to be here with you and Ricardo. I am so excited about learning more and more about mass timber. It has been a pleasure to learn the story of Mercer Mass Timber and how they are effectively making change and collaborating. I love that they are collaborators. If you have any other questions, we'll have information in the show notes. Make sure to reach out to them, check out their projects. They're really amazing buildings that their company is definitely creating, building, and designing. So one more for our planet and one more for the people that get to collaborate and build and utilize these practices. I'm surely involved and excited about it. I hope you are as well. And that's the Dirt on Offsite Dirt. Thank you for being here and have an amazing day. And when you look at a tree and you look at what a tree can offer and how it can actually grow and build something sustainable, low carbon, then you're building with mass timber. And that's where we want to be in the next 100 of years to go. Thank you again for being here. Have a great day. Thank you, guys.
Audrey.
Thank you.